Well, hello, my teacher friends. Welcome to the Beyond Measure podcast. My name is Christina Whitlock, and I have taken the liberty of designating myself as your anytime piano teacher friend. I love to think about the human condition and how that shows up in the music studio. You too? Oh, good. Let's link arms together and move beyond the status quo so we can build valuable musical experiences that impact our students for a lifetime. Sound like a plan? Excellent. Let's get on with the show. First of all, can I just ask you a question? Can I ask you how you are doing? Like, as a human being? Maybe it sounds dumb of me to ask, but I really do feel a connection to those of you who listen to this podcast. I started this show genuinely to be a friend to the profession, and I guess I'm just hoping you know that I really do care how you're doing. I think as music teachers, we all have these niche skills that we can get hyper-focused on. These skills give us a way to function in the world around us. I always try to be thankful that I have such an obvious skill to contribute to my community. Yet, I also know more than anyone how easy it is to go all in on those skills and to miss the big picture of how I am doing as a human being. Not as a piano teacher, not as a mentor of teachers, but just as a person. So, please know I genuinely care about how you're doing, and I hope you are able to look at your life beyond your profession and feel satisfied. With that said, it's time for an episode dedicated to my favorite reflection question, which is naming what is working in this season of life. I aim to release one of these episodes every quarter, and today is the day. This is the 5th episode in this series, and I will link the others in today's show notes if you're curious and want to listen back. I say it every time I do this, but there is great benefit in taking time every few months to be intentional about naming the things that are working. Some people in the online space use the question, "What's saving my life right now?" And this is the same kind of concept. So today I am sharing 4 things that are working in my life right now, and then I'll share the flip side, what's not working, in my weekly piano teacher confession email that goes out on Thursdays. If you want to make sure you get the juicy stuff, because let's face it, there's just something extra intriguing about what is not working in someone's life, head to ChristinaWhitlock.com and get yourself on that email list. So let's get right to it, friends. 4 things that are working for me, your anytime piano teacher friend, in this season of life. Number 1, spring break. Oh, spring break. I took 2 weeks off of teaching at the end of March, and it was wonderful. I originally planned to be at MTNA in Minneapolis for that first week and then home with my kids the second, but I ended up not going to MTNA, which gave me 2 full weeks at home with very little travel involved. Both of my kids ended up homesick from school that first week, so I definitely didn't get the quiet time I envisioned, but it did feel somewhat luxurious to be able to tend to them without having to make alternate arrangements for lessons and all of that. Over those 2 weeks, I was able to spend time with 3 of my real-life teacher friends. I met Amy Chaplin for a long lunch. I went to see the show Come From Away with Tiffany Arnold, who is also my daughter's violin teacher. And I ended up driving a couple of hours so I could meet Jana Williamson for brunch and an impromptu afternoon of mall walking. Let's be honest, music teachers by nature can have a hard time truly being on break, right? We're notorious for filling our non-teaching hours with quests for productivity. In fact, I have used the week of spring break to play catch up on work for pretty much as long as I can remember. I remember being grateful for the time to catch up on schoolwork as far back as elementary school. And in college, did I take spring break road trips with my friends? Nope. I used that week to practice my brains out and to catch up on projects. In fact, trips to MTNA conferences are pretty much the only travel I've ever done over spring break. The older I get, the better I am at finding a balance between rest and productivity. I am slowly, little by little, getting better at finding that balance of work and rest. So, while I absolutely got things done over this break, I released the 2025 recital guide, I got my studio cleaned up and ready for this final push into the school year, and much more, I will say I was also able to head back into teaching last week feeling renewed and organized and ready to tackle the rest of this school year. As you begin to think about next year's lesson calendar, can I cast my vote for you to take a 2-week spring break? Especially if you're attending MTNA in Chicago in 2026, make sure you give yourself time afterwards to breathe and process and reset. I can't tell you how great it felt to step off the hamster wheel of life for 2 weeks and hang out with my family and make real meals and read and write and rest and when's the next break again? All right, number 2, the second thing working for me in this season of life, my happy file. My happy file is a literal file folder that I keep in my studio, and it contains a mountain of evidence that I am indeed doing good work in the world. I talked about this way back in episode 20. It was called Cheers to Preserving Gratitude. But you know those sweet notes your students write you, or the holiday cards with meaningful messages inside them? I grew up sticking those like in a shoebox and keeping it in the closet. But the problem is, you're only going to be prompted to look back through those things once a year when you're cleaning out the closet? For me, looking back on those words and drawings are a real boost to my spirit. So I always recommend keeping some of them in an easy-to-access location, not tucked away in the closet. Enter my happy file. I can't keep everything from 29 years of teaching in a single file folder, but I do keep some of it handy. Then, when I find myself having sort of a low day or feeling overwhelmed by stress, I can just open up the file folder and remind myself that I am loved by my studio community. I do the same thing in my phone. When I receive a particularly heartwarming text message or a direct message on social media, I'll take a screenshot and I'll put it into a special folder in Google Photos. That way, if I'm ever stuck in a doom scroll on my phone and I need a pick-me-up, I just go open my happy file on Google Photos and let the kind words of others pick me back up. I found myself in a spiral several weeks ago where I was feeling bad at my job, ineffective as a parent, like I was wasting my time on all these podcast endeavors, all the things, right? Once I got enough perspective to do so, I reached out to my happy file, and it really did help pull me out of the muck. So much of what we do, friends, is intangible. When we have access to physical evidence of the difference we're making in the world, it's helpful to put that stuff to use. Number 3, the third thing working for me in this season of life is prepping for student evaluations. It's that time, friends. I released an episode 4 years ago about writing student evaluations. It's episode number 14, and I still find myself recommending it to coaching clients all the time. Here's the deal. Can you run a piano studio without writing student evaluations? Of course you can. But writing evaluations truly is one of those mutually beneficial endeavors that you know I'm obsessed with. Just like I think it's important to make these lists of what's working and not working in my season of life, it's also important to put words to paper regarding my students' accomplishments and goals. I'm trying to get an earlier start to these evaluations this year so they don't get lost in the end of year shuffle. But I just have to say, you don't know how much better and clearer you are going to feel about your teaching until you write a round of student evaluations. They don't have to be eloquent and they don't have to be complicated. Just decide the kinds of things you want to communicate. For me, that's a list of accomplishments over the last term, what I hope to accomplish in the next few weeks, and any specific points of improvement we're working on. Now here's the secret. Once you establish your points of evaluation, then you can take notes during your students' lessons for a week or two. That's where I am right now. When you take notes during the lesson itself, your communications are going to be quite simple to put together on your own time. If you don't take notes during the lesson, this process is going to take so much longer because you'll be sitting at your computer trying to remember how many new scales you learned this year and what your students' favorite pieces were. It's just too much recall. Be smart about this, okay? Use the lesson time to help you. All right, friends, the fourth thing that is working for me in this season of life, cooking with my kids. I have to say, it's not fun to talk about parenting on the internet. It's just not. People are so quick to judge. So as I say this, I feel like there are going to be people out there who say, of course you need to cook with your kids, or your kids should be doing the cooking by now. But here's the thing. I grew up with a mom who, by her own admission, just wanted to get things done. She did not enlist my help very often, and when she did, she often ended up taking over and doing it herself anyway. And that's very much my tendency also. So when I'm done teaching and it's late and I just need to throw dinner on the table, I am not good at getting my kids involved because it's just going to take longer. And yet, I have a teacher's heart, right? I want to teach my kids these things. I want to help them figure it out. And I know there's no way to learn your way around a kitchen until you just get in there and do stuff. So, while we had that glorious 2-week spring break, I was very intentional about getting them involved in the meal planning, the meal preparations, and the cleanup. And I'm even happier to say, when I went back to teaching last week, I was still able to include them in the rapid-fire dinner prep on 2 different evenings last week. I'm hopeful this is a trend that can continue, at least occasionally. I think this has many applications beyond parenting. Many of us shoulder too many responsibilities simply because it feels easier to do it ourselves than to train someone else. I hope this takeaway will help you stay open to asking for help and considering short-term inconveniences for long-term benefit. Can you think of anything you need to begin training someone else to do so you don't ultimately have to be in charge of it? I can't help but feel like most of us have something like that in our lives. Well, friends, there you have it, my latest list of what is working for me in this season of life. I would love to know what you would put on your list, so follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond Measure Podcast and drop me a message to let me know. Or you can always send me an email at hello@christinawhitlock.com. That's hello@christinawhitlock.com. Let's toast our way out of here today, and then we can celebrate our new teacher friend of the week. Studio teacher friends from all around the world. Like the great Ferris Bueller once said, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. That's precisely the intention between naming the things that are working and aren't working in your season of life. May we all take time to make those lists this week, knowing there is power in naming things for what they are. Cheers to you, my multifaceted teacher friends. Hear, hear. Today's teacher friend of the week is Patreon supporter and friend Laura Gray. Laura is one of those super friends who often starts her week off with me in Monday Morning Power Hour. And I know I say this a lot, but there really is something special about kicking off my week with friendly teacher faces. It's a luxury most studio teachers just don't get. Laura and I also got the pleasure of sharing a meal together at the airport coming home from MTNA when it was in Reno in 2023. I'm celebrating Laura today for lots of reasons, but I'll focus on the fact that she introduced me to a collection of pieces I've grown to absolutely love. Last December, I hosted a teacher show and tell in the Patreon community, and every teacher who attended brought one favorite teaching piece to showcase. Laura Gray brought a piece from a collection called Waddle and Quack by Canadian composer Lynette Sawatsky. Since I'm used to being the one who introduces teachers to new collections, I loved the opportunity to be shown something new. I've loved exploring this collection of elementary pieces by Lynette Sawatsky, and I'm grateful to Laura Gray for helping introduce me to them. So congratulations, Laura Gray, on being Teacher Friend of the Week. I will link the Waddle and Quack collection in today's show notes. If you're looking for more supplemental recommendations, the 2025 Beyond Measure Recital Guide should definitely be on your purchase list. The guide is $15, and you will receive links and descriptions for 36 winning selections, along with my top 10 recital tips and more. Head to ChristinaWhitlock.com/2025 for all the details, or check out the link in today's show notes. Do me a favor and give some serious consideration to joining the Beyond Measure Super Friends community on Patreon. You will get access to that teacher show and tell I mentioned from December 2024. You'll be able to attend Monday Morning Power Hours, all while helping this show stay on air. We all have to make tough decisions as to how to spend our time. I'm no exception, and the financial support I receive through the Patreon community is what allows me to keep this work a priority. So if Beyond Measure matters to you, I would love to find your name on my list of super friends. Membership is just $3 or $6, and you can check it all out at patreon.com/beyondmeasurepodcast. That's all for today, friends. I hope you have a great week ahead of you, and I will look forward to sharing my list of what's not working this season with you in Thursday's Piano Teacher Confession email. Onward and upward!